Hello and welcome to my PowerPoint presentation on why philosophy and video games go hand in hand. So, my story. So, kind of start this off, I just kind of want to tell you guys how I got here. So, when I was a kid, I was bullied incredibly hard and I really didn't have any friends till probably about my mid to late teenage years. And even then, they weren't really all that great. So, we never really hung out outside of school anyway. But the one thing I did have was my parents would always get me little PS3 games from the clearance section at either a local game store or GameStop or whatever. And I played a lot of the Lego games. I played the Batman Arkham games and I loved them. That was really my escape was these games. And it was really the first love I remember having was playing video games. So about 5 years ago, I met God and I became a Christian. This isn't meant to proselytize or try to convert you. This is just telling you guys kind of how I got here. And at this time, I felt very satiated with myself, but I wanted to keep learning. So I began to read a lot. I read a lot of fantasy, philosophy, sci-fi, these things with these bigger themes in them. And it taught me how to look a little deeper at things, even if they weren't particularly supposed to have them looked at that deeper, if that makes sense. But I started to really get into it, and even the games I played, I used to play a lot of really competitive games, but I eventually how do I wanna put it? I started almost reactively looking deeper into these. I didn't want to play these things that just made me angry. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn out of everything. So, I eventually did start doing that, and it kinda led me here, and I really enjoy doing these videos because I feel like it's just kind of a way for me to decompress all the stuff I have in my head. So let's go a couple examples to kind of get you guys into where I'm going. So my first example is probably my top two or three. It's in that category of my games of all time, and that's Ghost of Tsushima. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the single most philosophical games ever made. And that's because it really challenges the main, I'll say, character trait that was recognized at the time in feudal Japan, which is honor. And it's really when is it okay to break the rules? When is it okay to move outside the status quo if it's applicable to helping someone? And I think it's actually really applicable to our society as a whole because I feel like we have a lot of these elitist moral compasses being pushed onto us by influencers, by the news. And this isn't me trying to be like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but I feel like there's so many different agendas being shoved down our throat that it's almost impossible to tell sometimes unless you have a really strong moral compass instilled to you by your parents or by a friend or by someone in your family what is actually right and wrong. And I don't think Jin was really afraid of shaking that up once he realized the Mongols didn't follow it either. And it kind of taught me this lesson that authority isn't always there for a good reason. The shogun, and this isn't to take a shot because I love the character, but Lord Shimada, even he didn't even know it. He thought his rigid old way of doing things was the correct way to move. It was the correct way to deal with the problem that was the Mongol invasion of Japan. But it just wasn't. Jin had to break the rules. He had to become the ghost. And without becoming the ghost, we really don't know how that story would have gone. I don't have a PS5 yet, so I haven't gotten to play Ghost of Yote, but I'm really looking forward to that one because of how much I love the first game. And my second example is a game that really holds near and dear to my heart because I've been playing the God of War game since I was single digits in age, and I'm coming up on 23 in September, and that's God of War Ragnarok. And I think this game, aside from obvious my faith, really taught me what it means to be a man. And I think that being a man is about being of service to everyone around you, even if it doesn't benefit you. And it's just, I put it here, radical servitude to others, and I really stand by that. Is I think that This radical servitude, pardon me if you hear my dog barking, this radical servitude is really what brings men closer to their purpose. And Kratos really, in the original God of War trilogy and the two spin-offs, Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus, he really he's very deeply traumatized by his time there and what the gods took from him. And I think watching the new duology of games, and hopefully maybe we'll get a little bit more of this in the new Laufey game coming up, um, really gave him a second chance to be the man he wanted to be. And he kind of took the trauma and he turned it into something positive. He taught Atreus what it means to really be a man. And I think we really get to see how love changed Kratos from this evil monster into a loving father and a loving husband. And I really want to be a dad and a husband myself one day. So, watching someone who had gone through as much mental and physical trauma, you can even still see the scar on Kratos' stomach from where he was stabbed with the blade of Olympus. And it's kind of that constant reminder of his past. Seeing him carry that around and still do the right thing, I think is really inspiring. So, in conclusion, that the video games are just a great way to begin looking deeper for these quality stories that have these lessons in them anyway. And even if you don't like philosophy, I think you can still recognize the fact that philosophers most of the time admit that they don't have it all figured out. Socrates said that he knows for sure that he knows nothing. So, what do we actually look for when we're looking for these big, deep stories? First, I put these characters who have their morals and ethics challenged in some way or are forced to confront life from a different perspective, i.e., Arthur Morgan, Jin Sakai, and Big B Wolf. So the reason I put those three characters specific because I feel like they came from a very different walk of life than what their story required of them. Big B Wolf was this monster, and I didn't really give him a slide because I didn't really feel befitting. But I do want to talk about it very briefly here. Is Big B was really forced to put the monster away and start looking at things as more of a man, or unless you went the absolute monster route, which I know some people did. Number two is read. And I know a lot of people don't like reading or they think reading is boring, but reading really isn't, guys. Like when I read, I see a movie in my head. It doesn't matter what I read. But most importantly, read what you like philosophy, fantasy, sci fi, or whatever you might like. Self improvement. I have Mastery on here by Robert Greene. I really love that book. But whatever you think you personally gain the value from is what you should be reading. And I did put a couple of these on the right here. These are some of my favorites. The Bound and the Broken, Red Rising has gotten a little bit of a huge media following over the last couple of years. Sun Eater's just as good as those other two. And then for these kind of self-improvement books, I have the Book of Five Rings, which I mentioned briefly in my video about Miyamoto Musashi. Cry Like a Man is written by Jason Wilson. He runs a sort, I believe it's called the Cave of Adullam. It is a clinic for these young boys to really learn what it means to become men. And then Robert Greene really doesn't need any introduction, but he's, I think, just got one of the greatest looks into the human psyche that has really been shown on the internet. And you should read really any one of his books. And number three, I have enjoyed the process. Make your own conclusions. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not Socrates. I'm not Jordan Peterson. I'm not anyone important. I'm not Andrew Briggs. I'm just a guy on the internet. My word's not gospel, and these are just my simple observations from my relatively short life that I really just wanted to share with you guys. So, that being said, thank you for watching. This is by far my most out there video yet, and I know that. And I really want to keep doing these because I feel really therapeutic when I do these. I feel like I really just get a lot off my chest, and I'm not as stressed out. And I feel very blessed by all of you guys' comments. I know this sounds stupid, but 3,000 views on a video about Socrates from a channel that had less than 30 subscribers at the time is so humbling to me. And I'm so grateful. You guys have literally grown my subscriber count by almost 60 in a few days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. And I really, really am grateful for every one of you. So, with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys around. Thank you.